In other college football action, number 22 Indiana destroyed in-state foe Indiana State 73-0. The Hoosiers put up nearly 700 yards of offense. That's the most under head coach Curt Cignetti. Out west, Houston leads Colorado 26-14 midway through the fourth. Buffalo's quarterback Ryan Staub has been spreading the love with completions to 7 different receivers. That's a lot, but not as much as Syracuse had today. They had 12. But we'll keep it rolling here. Staying in the Big 12, Arizona's got a 17-3 advantage over Kansas State at the halftime break. U of A has dominated on the ground with nearly 150 rushing yards and a pair of scores. The nightcap between UCLA and New Mexico is underway from the Rose Bowl. The Lobos have not beaten a high major opponent in nearly 20 years. A chance to do that tonight against Nico Iamaleava and company. And tomorrow's action, 12th-ranked Clemson battles Georgia Tech. Syracuse definitely will have its eyes on that one. But for the Yellow Jackets, under head coach Brent Key, they've won 6 of 7 matchups against ranked ACC opponents. Big one on Rocky Top. Number 15 Tennessee hosts Georgia tomorrow. That's a number 15 versus number 6 clash. The Vols have dropped their last 8 games to the Bulldogs. All right, we are up against a break here in Orange Overtime, but on the other side, we will take a trip into the radio replay booth and give out our WAER player of the game. Stick with us. Our post-game coverage rolls on.
Hi, this is Tracy, Director of Membership and Development. Why not give a gift to WAER and yourself when you let us take your unwanted vehicle off your hands? Not only will your donation help support the on-air programs our community relies on every day, but it may even qualify for a tax deduction. Visit WAER.org to learn more. Thanks.
The game might be over, but what's better than listening to the action once? Hearing it again. Radio Replay is up next on WAER.
Hey, welcome back to Orange Overtime. I'm your host, Adam Hipsky, breaking down this dominating win for Syracuse over Colgate. The final, 66-24. The Orange round out their non-conference slate and head into ACC play next week. But it's time to take a trip into Radio Replay and relive this Syracuse victory. Just 4 minutes into the game, Ross Simmons hauled in his 3rd touchdown of the year after 2 scores last week against UConn, but it wasn't just the senior who got in on the action early.
Jelly in the shotgun again with Hart to his left. The hard count gets the Raiders. It's a free play, and Jelly lofts it deep down the right sideline. Darrell Gill makes the catch and waltzes into the end zone. A beautiful grab from Darrell Gill Jr., who went up top to grab it. And Syracuse has its 2nd touchdown of the day, a deep strike from Angeli to Gill. It is 13-3 Orange. 2:12 to go in the first.
Darrell Gill, wow. With other Syracuse wide receiver Justice Ross Simmons sidelined after the first quarter, Gill filled the void and then some. Speaking of filling voids, that's exactly what running back Will Nixon did tonight with fellow tailback Yasin Willis out with injury.
Pitch out right. Nixon takes a cut. He's into the end zone. Touchdown Syracuse. Flag comes in.
And it's against Colgate.
So that's a touchdown Orange. Penalty on the Raiders.
Darrell Gill with a first half for the ages. But that was Nixon's first touchdown of the season and first score in a Syracuse uniform. Now you've heard Darrell Gill's name once. Why not hear it again?
Left. Angeli takes the shotgun snap. Deep throw down the left sideline. He's got Gill again. Touchdown Syracuse. It's Darrell Gill's world, and we're all just living in it. 30-3, the Orange on top with an extra point pending to go up by 28.
We were living in Darrell Gill's world, but SU's foot wouldn't come off the gas one bit.
Angeli claps, takes the snap. Throw down the right sideline, intended for Hornsby. He catches it. pulls over a defender. He's into the end zone. Touchdown, Orange. First touchdown of the season for Jalen Hornsby. And SU extends the lead 37-3 with under 2 minutes to go before halftime.
That was SU quarterback Steve Angeli's fourth touchdown pass of the game. Tonight was the first touchdown game of the redshirt junior's career. Speaking of firsts, a big one was checked off for one particular SU wideout.
As Angeli takes the snap, quick drop, throws up the seam. Williams makes the catch and falls into the end zone. The first career touchdown for the freshman. Darian Williams finds pay dirt, and Syracuse extends the lead.
Quite the moment for freshman Darian Williams, a former top prospect from right here in Syracuse. Colgate has been in the doghouse all night, but its offense had something to show for late in this one.
Takes the shotgun snap. He looks to the right. He fires for the end zone. Swanson goes up, and he makes the catch for the Colgate touchdown. All over the Syracuse defensive back, Chris Peel. And Reed Swanson gives Colgate its first touchdown of the day.
That touchdown was not just the first for Colgate of the day, but it was the first since 2016. Of course, 2 seasons ago, the 'Cuse beat the Raiders 65-0. But the Raiders didn't just score once.
Sterney takes the snap, fires down the left sideline to the end zone, caught, touchdown! Reed Swanson again. The second touchdown of the quarter for the Colgate junior wideout. It's 45-16 Orange with no time left on the clock in the third.
With that touchdown, Swanson collected half of his touchdowns from last season in just one game. But it was only a matter of time before SU got back in the driver's seat.
Angeli takes the snap. It's a QB sneak. He's going to keep it, and he's going to get pushed into the end zone. Syracuse touchdown. Steve Angeli, 6 total on the day, 5 through the air and 1 on the ground. And the Orange go back up by 34. 51-17 with 11:03 left to play here tonight from the JMA Wireless Dome.
That was the first rushing touchdown of Steve Angeli's career, but it's not just Angeli that can run from the QB position.
He takes it. It's a QB keeper, and he's got the end zone. Read option for Luke Carney. He finds pay dirt and is in for another Syracuse touchdown. 65-24 with under 5 minutes to go.
That's right, Luke Carney, SU's third-string quarterback with his first career touchdown, and that is about all she wrote from inside the dome. Syracuse takes down Colgate 66-24, and Josh Richardson had the call.
This one was over by halftime, but it didn't stop the Orange from tacking on another 28 in the second half. Syracuse moves to 2-1 on the season, extends the winning streak over Colgate to 18 games, and takes this one 66-24 over the Raiders.
That's right, 42-point victory for the Orange, and the next time they'll do it, it'll be in a much tougher matchup. Syracuse at Clemson, Memorial Stadium, Death Valley, the site. We'll, of course, have your coverage starting with McClurg remodeling countdown to kickoff at 11:30. Game time between the Orange and Tigers is set for noon. All right, that about does it for Orange Overtime, but first, we have to hand out the WAER Player of the Game, and so many different directions you can go with this one. Darrell Gill Jr., 6 catches, 152 yards, 2 scores, but you got to go to the one that was slinging him the rock all night long. That's Steve Angeli, tying the Syracuse program record for most touchdown passes in a game with 5 through the air, 24 for 32, 400-plus yards, and a clean sheet. No interceptions, doesn't turn the ball over. The Orange backup quarterback Ricky Collins did give one away, as well as a fumble from Will Nixon early, but Steve Angeli not the perpetrator in those. So Syracuse 66, Colgate 24, and Steve Angeli is your WAER Player of the Game after his breakout performance against the Raiders. All right, the double overtime has you until midnight with Drew Alball and Rahil Jaswal. But first, some thank yous to give out. It's Jared Valentin calling the shots as our producer, Josh Sokolsky, the engineer, Cole Purvis in the radio replay booth, and the entire WAER Sports Desk. All right, for Orange Overtime, I'm Adam Hipsky, sending it to Drew Alball and Rahil Jaswal for the double overtime. Guys, what do you make of this one?
Well, we made a 66-24 win for Syracuse. Adam, you gave out a lot of thank yous. Great job to you as well. What a job
Awesome job.
did
Awesome job.
in the booth today. And what a job Syracuse did. 66-24 victory. Rahil, a lot of good, but there's also some bad to look at.
Yeah, definitely. This was a scoreline that a lot of fans were expecting. And Drew, a lot of players got into the action. 13 different players with a reception today. But as you mentioned, still some things to work on. Actually, a lot of things to work on before Syracuse goes to Death Valley and takes on Clemson next weekend.
There's a lot to work on, a lot to still take away from this game as well. If you want to call in at 315-443-2011. The double overtime goes until 12 midnight. Drew Alba alongside Rahil Jaswal. It starts right now.
The game may be over, but our coverage on WAER is not. Here on the double overtime, we'll be breaking down all the highs.
Ford claps. This time he gets it. Looks to the left corner of the end zone. 1v1 ball for Meeks. He went up there and he got it. Touchdown, Syracuse.
Ford takes the snap, drops back, looking to the left, lofts it down the field, and gets it, catches it. Gain of 20, first down, Orange.
McCord in the gun, takes the snap, hands off Allen, and one-on-one with the UNLV defender. He breaks the tackle and finds the end zone. Absolute cinema in the Sin City.
And the lows.
Ford the snap, throws it near side, it's intercepted by Pittsburgh to the 10, and he's into the end zone. Touchdown Panthers. Rasheem Biles with a pick six to the house. The snap, the hold, the kick is up, and it's good. And McKinney is the hero in Syracuse. The Cardinal walk off the Orange.
Delivering our hottest takes along the way.
When you have this many talented receivers, this deep of a group, someone has to be in single coverage.
It was Jackson Meeks.
They talked about it in Jackson Meeks in the second half, but in that sense, it was Trevor Pena. You leave Pena wide open, and you get him a great chance to make a great catch.
What did we just watch?
I don't know.
This is the third-ranked passing offense in the nation going into the game. I'm sorry, that team did not show up. They were left in the bye week. A lot of rust offensively to start this one off, and it never got better for the Orange.
Get your voice heard by calling in at 315-443-2011 or check out our YouTube at WAER Sports Talk. It's the double overtime, and it starts right now.
The double overtime until midnight. Drew Alba alongside Rahil Jaswal as Syracuse takes down Colgate 66-24. Domination for the Orange, but it was really domination that was expected all game long. Coming into this matchup, this is a team that beat Colgate a couple years ago by more than 60 points. And today, a little sloppy play here and there, but overall, a lot to take away. If you want to call in, make sure at 315-443-2011. Once again, 315-443-2011. You can also leave a comment on the YouTube page. We're live on WAER Sports Talk over there on YouTube. Make sure to interact with us every way you can. Rahil, 66-24 victory. Expected, yes, but there were some good and some bad to look at, especially on the offensive side.
Yeah, there's definitely, obviously, some things you want to work on, but you score 66 points in a game, you got to be pretty happy with the output. I thought Steve Angeli today was absolutely fantastic. It's a real nice cleanser having a game that he was great in from start to finish, because obviously, for the first 3 quarters against UConn, it was absolutely horrible for him, and then he turned it on in the fourth quarter, picked it up, didn't put the ball in harm's way today, threw 5 touchdowns, had 1 on the ground as well. We got to see him rush a little bit, which is something we didn't see against UConn and maybe a little bit against Tennessee. So certainly another element to this offense. But Drew, obviously, there's still a lot to work on before the Orange head to Death Valley and take on Clemson here on the AER airwaves next weekend.
And yes, for everyone at home listening, we will talk about Ricky Collins, but I like how you brought up Steve Angeli right out of the gate, over 400 yards. Angeli is just the 4th SUQB all-time to be responsible for 6 touchdowns in a game, as he also rushed for one. Angeli got it done in all facets of the field. But Ricky Collins really was the storyline for me, and I don't want to harp on it too much, but a lot of these fans in the Dome stayed.
Yes, they did, yeah.
Until Ricky Collins came in, stepped onto the turf, and what does he do? He looks a little flustered out of the gate for Hill, misses a guy down the left sideline, and then, of course, the real bad interception. Floats the ball, and yeah, that was not great. Let's put it that way.
No, it was not. And it was a little interesting because we saw his first throw, and immediately when we were watching the game, it was like there was no velocity on it.
No.
And then he tries to hit one up the sideline and completely short arms it, and it's a really bad interception. But also, Collins, it was fresh off the bench, right? This is a guy that didn't play much at LSU. He was supposed to be
It's fresh off the bench against Colgate.
I understand that, but still nothing prepares you, no matter how much you practice, nothing prepares you for live game reps, right? So when you come into a game, I know he was throwing a lot. Yes, you obviously expected a little better, but I also do like the way he was able to bounce back from that interception, because after he was picked off, Steve Angeli came back into the game, and it was almost as if, oh my God, why is Angeli coming back in the game? I think Fran Brown just wanted to get one more score to kind of really drive, if the nail wasn't in the coffin already, really drive it home. And then after that, he was more comfortable to go back to Ricky Collins. And you got to give him credit, because after that, he looked pretty good.
Credit for 3 completions?
It looked better.
30 yards?
It looked better and bounced back, led him on a touchdown drive. So you do have to give him credit there, because after he threw that interception, Drew, it really could have shaken his confidence, because it's obviously tough. You transfer in to Syracuse thinking you're going to be the QB1, and all of a sudden, a couple weeks later, they turn around and they get Steve Angeli, and he wins the starting job over you. That's got to throw you for a loop. So I will give him credit in that, after he threw that interception, his head didn't drop. He didn't start pouting on the sidelines. He was right. Even when Angeli came back into the game, he was right back in it, ready to go, and he did get some meaningful reps out of this one.
I do feel kind of bad for Ricky Collins.
It's a tough situation to be in.
Yeah, it is. And he drove half the length of the field, was 50 or 60 yards. You get down to like the 8-yard line. Luke Carney comes in.
Because the helmet comes off.
Because Ricky Collins' helmet comes off. And then he scores a rushing touchdown. So Ricky Collins doesn't even get accredited for that. It's tough. You transfer all the way from LSU. You come here up to the snowy 315. You think maybe, okay, I can weather the cold because I'm going to be playing starting quarterback
in the
for
Dome
Syracuse in the Dome. And snap, and Steve Angeli is the starting quarterback, and he proved why he was. 24 for 32 with 417 and 5 touchdowns as Syracuse takes down Colgate 66-24, improves to 2-1 on the year, while the Raiders are now 0-3. What do you guys think of Ricky Collins? Feel free to call us in at 315-443-2011. Ricky Collins comes in, and he looked, we've already mentioned it, a little rocky, a little up and down. Someone that did not look rocky, did not look up and down. A guy that I thought shined the brightest today was Daryl Gill. Comes in, 6 receptions, 152 yards and 2 touchdowns, all before the half, as he was then pulled from the game. He looked like the fastest, the strongest, the most intelligent player out on the gridiron, and a guy that really maybe established himself as the wide receiver 1 for Steve Angeli?
I don't know about wide receiver 1. His performance today was fantastic. And that second touchdown, unbelievable. The 50-50 ball that he just went up and mossed the defender for. Our very own Josh Richardson on the call said, you'll see that on Sunday in the You Just Got Mossed segment. I definitely think that's a Sports Center top 10 worthy play. But I still think that Jonte Cook should be the number 1 option. I know he's
Jonte Cook caught 2 balls today.
I know he has fizzled out. He had a decent game against Tennessee where he caught 6 balls for 58 yards, had a touchdown, but I still like him in a one-on-one situation versus Daryl Gill. Also considering Jonte Cook had his best game at the start of the year. That was against a ranked Tennessee foe.
That's true.
Yes, he struggled against UConn, and today he wasn't really he was kind of a non-factor in Colgate, but again, a game where he scores 66 points, it's easy to get lost in the shuffle. Tonight was just Daryl Gill's night. But on a consistent basis, I really like Jonte Cook as the wide receiver 1 for Steve Angeli going forward.
And to your Jonte Cook camp over there, everything comes with an asterisk today, of course, because it was against Colgate.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
All of these guys that we're talking about right now out of the jump, the Daryl Gills of the world, the Jonte Cooks, played majority in that first half. How much stock can you really take from this Colgate game? Not too much.
Not a crazy amount.
This was some momentum you can take into next week against Clemson, that's for sure. But as far as, putting a stake down and saying, this is why blank, I don't know how much you can take from that against a team like Colgate as Syracuse wins 66-24 to improve to 2-1 on the year.
Yeah, obviously you're going to take this game with a good amount of grain of salt just because it is Colgate, right? And Syracuse has won 7, now 18 straight against Colgate. So you're not going to take a crazy amount from it, but I do think this was a nice reset from how ugly the UConn game was, especially after, when Fran Brown made them run sprints, and that stirred up a lot of conversation in the media about was that for show or, did he,
was it just for the optics?
Yeah, exactly. So
right.
I think this was kind of just a good reset. Let's get away from that. I think Fran Brown, when you heard him speak in the media leading up to this, he was ready to put the UConn game and everything that happened behind him. And I think now it's a good, clean place to start heading into Clemson. Because if they were a little rocky in this, obviously tonight wasn't perfect, but this was like a performance where, it was a little closer than you would have liked it to be. Then all of a sudden you start asking serious questions as you go to Death Valley.
Right.
But I think this is a way to kind of wipe the slate.
Cleanse themselves.
Exactly. Cleanse them with some
happens
toothpaste
to be
against Colgate. And then
go.
You can get into the real bulk of the ACC schedule.
Hashtag more than just a toothpaste brand, of course. Colgate, the Raiders, come up here and lose 66-24 in the Dome. Another thing that I want to talk about, Rahil, Will Nixon comes in, fumbles the ball early on after Yasin Willis and Malachi James both ruled out. Are you worried about the running back room early on? Nixon finishes, by the way, with 12 carries for 66 yards and 1 touchdown. That's not exactly domination against a Colgate team. Now, does he need to be dominant moving forward as he is the backup running back?
I wouldn't say so, but...
Not entirely, but it's not exactly a good thing after last game against UConn where you throw the ball 53 times, you rush for less than 20 attempts. And this was not balanced either. Steve Angeli throws for 32. Nixon with just 12 carries. You worried about that split? Because I am.
Well, yeah, in total, if you count all the QB rushes and the other carries, it was split 35 to Angeli's 32, and Ricky Collins also threw a couple passes in there as well. But I would say the one area I might have been a little disappointed in was the run game. I thought that this was a perfect opportunity for Will Nixon to kind of stamp himself as a good RB2 behind Yasin Willis, but obviously him being ruled out with injury. This was a great opportunity for him. And he didn't jump off the screen. He had that one nice long run that made up a majority of those 66 yards. But there was a good point in the game where he had 10 carries for about 28 to 30 yards. We talked about how he's been relatively inefficient this season. It doesn't bode well, especially against the Colgate squad. You would think, right, when Syracuse goes up against a squad like Tennessee, you expect them to get out-physicaled, right, beat in the trenches just because Tennessee is SEC and they've got bigger guys. But against Colgate, Syracuse should really be running the game in the trenches. And I felt like on the offensive line front,
it wasn't dominant.
It wasn't dominant. This is a game you're expecting to get near 250 to 300 rushing yards. They only got 173 in the end. I just felt like this was the game to really stamp that authority and show that Fran Brown toughness, which he has preached so much since coming to Syracuse, and normally we see with his squad on the field.
Are you more or less worried about the trenches after Syracuse takes down Colgate 66-24? Call us in at 315-443-2011 to let your opinions be heard. The double overtime goes until midnight. Drew Alba alongside Rahil Jasbo with you. Syracuse wins 66-24, and you put up 66 points, and overall that's definitely a positive, but you mentioned the trenches. Somehow Colgate finishes the game without a sack, and yet still it felt like Angeli in that first quarter or so was pressured quite a bit.
Yeah,
he was scrambling, he was moving.
He still took a couple shots, particularly one in the first quarter when Syracuse was in the red zone and they got bailed out because it was a roughing the passer call because the D lineman hit Angeli in the helmet, and even if you touch the quarterback in the helmet. You can't do that nowadays. No. So you also would have expected a little more from Syracuse on the D-line as well. You know, not many sacks today. Something that I was expecting Syracuse to get after the quarterback, really 4, 5, 6, 7 sacks, and they just didn't do it. So it was a little disappointing on both ends. Kind of crazy to think about in a game.
How many did you expect, Rahil?
6 to 7 sacks, maybe even more. Our guys in the control room are gonna like that one. But you just felt like in a game like this was the time for Syracuse to really flex their muscles and show you that we are strong, we are physical. And even in a game you win 66-24, Drew, I'm still left a little like
I leave feeling it.
Like I don't know. I don't know.
I really don't know. You know, it's tough. Again, grain of salt, grain of toothpaste, whatever you want to call it. Syracuse dominates, but it's against Colgate. And the domination didn't come on the offensive line. It didn't come in the defensive line. The trenches weren't there necessarily, especially in that first quarter. There was a play late in the first where Angeli drops back, and there was a guy screaming off the line. Immediately, he has to throw it away. There's moments in the game where you think, really? Like, against Colgate?
Syracuse got 2 sacks.
Right.
All of today. And if you only get 2 sacks against Colgate,
what happens against Clemson?
Yeah, good luck trying to bring down Cade Klubnik in that Clemson Tigers squad.
Oh, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not going to happen.
It's not.
And you got a little over a week to prepare for that. It is a get-right game for Syracuse, 66-24 victory over Colgate. We still got a lot more to talk about on the double overtime. After a quick break, we're going to be talking more about the defense, about that defensive line. Samuel Jr. at the end of the first half, first career interception, all of that and more on the double overtime right after this.
The beauty of jazz is any time is a great time to experience new aspects of the musical genre and appreciate its rich history. WAER's HD2 channel is a dedicated source for jazz music 24 hours a day. Available to stream at WAER.org or on your HD radio. WAER, your local NPR station from Syracuse University.
Steven Spielberg's career almost ended shortly after it began. His first big break, the filming of Jaws, was a disaster.
You know, I had serious PTSD for years.
Now, more than half a century later, he comes face to face with the same shark prop that almost sank him.
Thank you for a robust career.
Steven Spielberg reflects on Jaws on the next morning edition from NPR News.
Weekdays from 5 to 9 on 88.3 WAER.
NewsHour from the BBC brings you interviews, news and analysis of the day's top global events.
What's going on?
What happens next?
Let's get more on our top story now.
With reporters across the world covering stories when they happen, wherever they happen.
This place is so remote that it's hard to imagine it as the front line of a major geopolitical row.
NewsHour from the BBC.
Weekdays after morning edition at 9 on WAER, your local NPR station.
Charlie Kirk's killing adds to a long list of recent political violence in America. A Minnesota state legislator murdered in her home. The Pennsylvania governor's house set on fire. An assassination attempt on then-candidate Trump. In the next installment of our weekly series, If You Can Keep It, the growing threat and what it means for our democracy. That's next time on 1A.
Weekdays from 10 to noon on 88.3 WAER.
Hi, I'm Kathy, and I listen to Bullseye because I really like the way that Jesse does his interviews, not just throwing softballs at people.
I'm Jesse Thorne. This week, Bob Odenkirk, the star of Breaking Bad, Mr. Show, Better Call Saul, and the Nobody movies, plus Jason Segel, co-creator and star of Shrinking. That's on Bullseye from MaximumFun.org and NPR.
Sunday morning at 11 on WAER.
Osborne the snap, deep drop, shuffles away from pressure and goes down. Jamie Tremble comes in from behind and sacks the quarterback. The first career sack for the sophomore.
Back here on the double overtime. Syracuse takes down Colgate 66-24, but before we get more into it, let's pause 10 seconds for station identification.
Hi, this is Andrew Catalan, SU class of 2001, and you're listening to 88.3 FM
WAER Syracuse, your local NPR station from the Newhouse School at Syracuse University.
If you want to call in, you can voice your opinions at 315-443-2011. Rahil Jaswal alongside Drew Alba, taking you up till midnight here on the Double Overtime following Syracuse's second win of the season. And Drew, we kind of touched on this a little bit at the end of the first block. We were talking about the lack of pass rush. But let's talk about the defense as a whole. Couple splash plays here and there. Demetrius Samuel playing his first couple defensive snaps.
How about it?
And getting an interception as well, making it on to the ESPN Instagram page. Had a nice receiving catch as well on offense. But what do you make of the 17-year-old's performance getting that interception today?
It makes me think that he can, again, everything against Colgate comes with an asterisk, but it makes me think that he can do it on both ends. He's a guy that came in looking to be hungry, made a nice play, a big INT. Not necessarily a momentum-flipping play.
No, definitely not, no.
But still something you take out of the first half and into the halftime locker room and say, fire me up, Samuel. Like, how about it? Great job. You came out there. You made a nice play. And I think that was really kind of the end for Zach Osborne. He comes in. He's the starter for Colgate, finishes with 2 interceptions, and then they go with Jake Sterney out of the half. And I want to touch on that first off. Sterney came in against the second half for Syracuse and kind of diced up the backup secondary and the backup defensive line.
Towards the end of the game,
Orange.
yes.
Finishes 14 for 19 with almost 150, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. That second half, Colgate scored 21 points. Syracuse scored 28.
Yeah.
What happened there?
I don't know. I don't want to say that Syracuse took their foot off the gas, but at that point in a game, it's really hard to stay locked in. When you're beating a team that bad.
Why is it hard to stay locked in if you're the backup defensive lineman just ready to get your chance? You're just nipping at it, and then you get your chance? It shouldn't be hard to lock in. I don't care if there's 50 people in the dome or 50,000. If you get your opportunity, you should take the most of it. You should have that opportunity. It's like what Tom Brady says, right? He was the 4th-string quarterback over for the Patriots, but he said, the second I step on the field, they're not going to take me off. And nobody I saw from Syracuse's defense in that second half, I turned British there for a moment, made me think, wow, I want to keep this guy on the field.
Again, we have to take into account they are second stringers and sometimes third stringers, right? So
Great.
They don't get
It's time to shine.
I understand your point. Obviously, you want the guys.
This second-string defense had everything made in the shade for them. They
No,
came
they did.
in
You're 100
with a
yes.
refurbished house. The roof was done. The door was painted. Everything but the Diet Coke in the fridge was ready for them. And they come in, and what happens? They do jack squat, Rahil.
Hey, sometimes the lights are a little brighter than expected.
Oh,
I know
come
no
on.
one was in the dome.
It wasn't bright for
the dome lights are pretty bright if you
Not
ask
for
me.
Jake Sterney. He comes in, throws for 150.
Obviously.
Let's hope there's not a lot of injuries to the Syracuse team. That's all I got to say down the stretch.
The second half, particularly the latter half, which you're talking about, it's definitely a cause for concern. I think Fran Brown is going to make sure of that because one thing I liked about Fran Brown is even when the game was well out of reach, he was still getting on his guys on the sideline saying, hey, we can't allow that. Hey, we can't have missed tackles here. We can't do this. We can't do that. Because you're right. In a big-time game, that might end up costing you. That little lack of discipline when you get into tougher games, it might cost you. And it should have costed them against UConn. It definitely costed them against Tennessee. So today they were able to skate by it. But I definitely do agree with you in the fact that you would want them to flash off your screen. But again, in a game like this where you're playing Colgate, maybe if this was another, maybe if you're beating up on a bad ACC squad, then maybe you're a little more locked in. But I think Fran Brown's definitely going to get that sorted out.
One guy I want to touch on is Jamie Tremble. We heard him out of the break. His first career sack in that first half, looked super quick off the edge and just tugged at Colgate's Zach Osborne right at the heels and brought him down in that second quarter. And this is a guy that comes in as a 4-star tight end, but super athletic, 6'4", 220. And this is a guy that maybe you want to play a little bit more. You mentioned it,
maybe.
Just a pair of sacks to Syracuse's name against Colgate. And if you're looking for more physicality in the trenches, which you should be looking forward to, you know what Fran Brown says. Big people beat little people up.
Yeah.
And Jamie Tremble is one of those quote-unquote big people that he's talking about. So maybe you see him off the edge a little bit more even against competition like Clemson.
Yeah, if you want to see more of Jamie Tremble, feel free to call in and voice your opinions at 315-443-2011. Rahil Jazzo alongside Drew Albaugh, taking you up till midnight here on the double overtime. But Drew, another element to this defense was the secondary. 2 Colgate receivers going over 100 yards. We've seen a couple receivers take advantage of this SU secondary. Is this a cause for concern?
Saunders with 11 receptions for 105. Swanson with 7 for 110 and a couple of touchdowns.
I'm more concerned with the Reed Swanson part. The Saunders one was kind of just because they force feed him the ball
and he's
so
guy.
much, and he is so good.
He is not a Colgate caliber player. Entered the transfer portal.
He did, and
he
pulled
pulled out
his name,
because credit to Saunders, by the way,
for staying loyal
one of the few guys in this college football landscape
that stay loyal to a program
that can do something like that for sure. Yeah, it's interesting. A couple of guys with over 100 yards, but you look past that, no one over 25 yards right after that. So I'm not super concerned. Again, I'm more concerned at the depth to this Syracuse team rather than the starting core. In that first half, Colgate puts up just 3 points. So how concerned can I really be about a defense that gives up 3 points in the first half? A lot of those guys you saw in the second half, Rahil, we're not going to see them again for the rest of the season.
That is true. You're not wrong,
but just next game, the rest of the season, Rahil.
They did allow 117 yards after the catch. And again,
most in the second half.
That is, again, most in the second half, but I still think it starts from the top, right? We've seen Syracuse.
The top was good today.
I know, but again, as you always say, it's against Colgate. But like, if this trickles down, like it's going to hurt you in games, and it hurt them in the first 2 weeks. So I'm a little surprised that Syracuse hasn't.
And this is where someone could say, "Oh, well, you're only as strong as your weakest link."
I don't know if I buy
hate that phrase. Golly, that makes no sense. Who cares if my third string
a lot of injuries happen in a college football season, so it does hold some validity. I don't know how much, maybe on a scale of like 10, maybe at like a 6 or a 7.
I mean, if you're only
I don't know.
If you're only as strong as your weakest link, then Syracuse basketball has a problem. If you look down the roster, that's all I gotta say.
I mean, again, I don't know, but like my whole thing is Fran Brown. What he preaches is Northeast tough, right? And if you're allowing 117 yards after the catch, that's not very.
It's not
Northeast tough. And I questioned it last year after the loss to Stanford, and then they came right after that, improved me wrong with a lot of great wins and a lot of hard-nosed tackling. But like, it's gotta be better than that. Just 117 yards. Again, I know, like we're talking about, it's second and third string guys, but like, it really starts from the top down. Because we've seen a lot of these Syracuse guys, not tonight.
Top as in the starters, as in Fran Brown.
I would say as in the starters. I think Fran Brown is preaching the message.
So, but what did you see out of the starting defense other than the pressure, which I'll give you that. But the secondary looked totally fine to me.
Yes, it did. But again, Colgate never really tried to establish the run game whatsoever. I felt like that was a huge misplay on the Raiders. If they wanted any chance at making this game close, they needed
there was no chance.
They needed to at least try, though. They didn't make much of an effort, Drew. I mean, it was a lot of just first and 10 drop-back throws. That's easy for the secondary to kind of sit back and not respect the run at all. I feel like if the Raiders actually played the game a little different, obviously, this game was not going to be close no matter what game plan or what way you drew it up, right?
It's tough
but
to
I felt like Colgate would have had a better chance if they tried to establish the run at first, and then maybe.
The problem is, regardless of what happens, if you start the game with punt, INT, field goal, punt, downs, punt, interception, downs, you're not going to win a football game.
Well, they had their chance with the Will Nixon fumble, right? That was where you felt like, okay, maybe.
And you need more than 3 there.
You need more than 3. I'm shocked that Kurt Fitzgerald didn't say, hey, let's go for it here. We're down 7-0. We're not going to get many opportunities like that again. But the 117 yards after the catch,
slightly concerning.
I would say slightly concerning.
I guess
if this was the starters, then I think it would be much more of a red flag.
Right.
But
obviously,
again, yeah,
it's the catch-22. Yes, depth is important, but at the end of the day, what is depth? It's just depth, right? It's these guys most likely we will not see in ACC play. So how important is it? It starts to become important if a few guys get injured. If you start to move down the line. but it doesn't matter all too much, right? I mean, does it?
I think it does, though, because you always have to game.
I guess, Rahil.
Because you always have to get. Guys are going to get beat up. Guys are going to get injured. That's just the nature of the sport. You need to have guys that you feel comfortable slotting in. And again, maybe this is maybe it's just because, it was the first time they really got some serious reps, right? Because they didn't get much of a chance against Tennessee because it was somewhat close. They didn't get really any chance against UConn because that game was nip and tuck throughout. So maybe they'll improve as the season goes on.
I don't want to
As for now, I don't know.
I don't want to harp on how bad, quote-unquote, the defense was today because they gave up 24 points against Colgate. Now, is that true? Sure. But it's
not the worst defensive. It's not the worst defensive.
It's not at all.
Yes.
And once again, we're looking at backups here. Would you rather have more depth than less? Sure. But at the end of the day, 3 points in the first half. 3. That's a field goal.
Yeah. Well,
off of a fumble, by the way.
That's true. Yeah. They didn't drive the field.
That was a free 3 points. So you can look at the depth. You can tomato, whatever you want to call it. Yes, that's not great. But yes, we're not going to see most of those guys again.
Yeah, not very shocking, Drew. You're the more positive one on here. But we're going to step... I mean, you know how it is. But we're going to step aside and take a quick break. But when we come back, we'll play a little classic game here at WAER. A little 10 for 10 action on the other side of this break.
Queen of Bluegrass, Rhonda Vincent, joins us on Mountain Stage this week, along with Neil Francis, Otis Gibbs, Don Landis, and the trio of Kathy Fink, Marcy Markser, and Chow Tien from China to Appalachia.
Hi, this is Rhonda Vincent. Join us this week in live performance on Mountain Stage.
Sunday from noon to 2 on 88.3 FM WAER.
On the next Putumayo World Music Hour, we'll explore the danceable, lilting music that falls under the umbrella of Afropop. Music that fuses African traditions with Western rock, pop, blues, and jazz. I'm Rosalie Howarth. Join me for Afropop, the next Putumayo World Music Hour.
Sunday night at 11 on WAER.
Congress has now stripped away critical funding that stations like WAER rely on to stay on the air, provide fact-based news, and serve every corner of our community. Because this work matters, we are determined to keep broadcasting, no matter the challenges ahead, by launching a $175,000 campaign to recoup our losses. If WAER has ever informed you, moved you, or helped you feel connected, this is your moment to act. Join us at WAER.org.
We know you've got a lot to do in a day, and sometimes it may not be easy to tune in at exactly the right time to catch WAER News. But WAER News is always available, wherever and whenever you are, without a paywall. Visit our website to use our live stream or catch up on local and national news, as well as podcasts on our website at WAER.org.
Ten questions. If you could go out to dinner with anybody on the Syracuse football team, who would it be and why?
In 10 minutes. Time is winding down. It's the 10 for 10 right here on WAER.
The 10 for 10 is back, everyone. We have our hosts, Drew Albaugh and Rahil Jasbo, ready to answer some questions. If you want to call in and give your answers, 315-443-2011. All right, let's get into it. Our host will answer 10 questions in 10 minutes. Let's see if they can get it done. Number 1, when was the last time Syracuse football won a football game on a Friday night?
Do we just, I think it was UNLV. Was that on a Friday night?
I think
year?
so, yeah.
I'm going to go with UNLV.
Yeah, let's go UNLV.
Incorrect. The Holiday Bowl against Washington State was actually on a Friday night.
I was on a flight when that game. Okay, yeah,
should have known
UNLV
that.
was on a Friday.
Correct.
Right?
It was on a Friday night.
That's not a bad.
The last regular season game, I guess, was UNLV. All right. Well, 0 for 1. Not bad.
Damn.
Number 2. Syracuse and Colgate used to play nearly every single season. What decade/year did their annual series end? So when did they stop playing every year and resort to where they're at now, just playing every once in a while?
Going with a decade here?
Well, you can say the decade. If you want to go for the specific year, then you can try it.
I think it was it after the 2000?
No.
You think it was before then?
I think it was before that.
Okay, well, because they went through a gap because they played him in 2016 and then they didn't play him again until 2023 and now. So
I would go with like the 90s. I would say they stopped in the 90s.
Not even close.
Was it like
the 1950s? 1956
Really?
was when this ended.
Okay. Wow. That was when the games used to be like 5-0 in favor of Colgate.
Correct. All right. Well, 0 for 2. That's also
these are great questions.
Yeah, also a
These are
former
great questions.
final score in a football game, 2-0. That's 1950s football. But
there we go.
Number 3, college football. Reset.
There we go. Adam.
Colgate football once went undefeated and unscored upon in a regular season. They did not give up a single point all year. What season was that?
Oh, jeez. Who came up with these? Who wrote this question? I want to know.
Corey Miller, the wonderful Corey Miller on WAR Sports Desk.
Shout out Corey for
So it's a
for this
true or
question.
false, and then if true.
No, it's not true or false.
No, it happened.
It did
the
happen.
question is, when did it happen? All right, Drew, let's put our brains together here.
I'm going with like the 1800s. Like 1895.
It's
How about like start of the
way
World
back.
War?
Way back,
They like
way-
end the season early or something.
I don't know. Did they play a full season this year?
Yes.
Okay. they
No
did.
wars.
No wars.
No,
okay.
no wars.
I mean,
Okay.
That wouldn't help me anyway. I don't know my historical
Okay,
dates
we'll go.
like that.
We'll go. I think it's got to be like 1890s. I think they played that long ago.
All right, I need a guess from both of you.
I'm gonna
Okay,
go
let's
1899. You go. You go.
All right, I'll go a little earlier. I'll go like 1884.
1932.
Oh,
My
wow.
goodness.
Wow.
All right. Well, 0 for 3 on the trivia. So number
To
4.
be fair,
of the
how are we meant to know the exact year of when Colgate went undefeated?
I mean, you guys have been about 40 years off on all of these. So
This is a pretty poor showing from
Yes.
from
All
the
right.
two of us.
Well, we're done with trivia for now. Time to have some fun. Number 4 on the 10 for 10. Who on this Syracuse football team would you want to be stranded on a desert island with?
Ooh.
No, deserted island with, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense. Deserted island. Yeah. Ooh.
Go ahead, Rail.
I don't know. I feel like I'm going to go with Dan Villari. I feel like he would just figure things out, right? I mean, he's played quarterback, he's played tight end, he's thrown passes, he's played fullbacks. I feel like he's just one of those guys that would figure it out, right? I mean, I don't know. I would
hate
go.
that.
My pick is Dan Villari. I feel like they call him like the Swiss Army knife
Right.
of Syracuse football. Surely he's got to be good surviving in the outdoors.
I think Dan Villari is too big of a human being. He's gonna steal all my food. Like I gotta get a smaller guy who we can go 50-50 with, maybe like a Daryl Gill. That's a guy that looks like
had a great game today.
Great game today. He's athletic. We can both run around and hunt or something.
Did you see
I
that
don't know.
catch? I mean, he could like reach all the pine cones.
He's also a cool guy.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go with Gill.
Okay.
All right, Dan Villari and Daryl Gill. We're almost halfway through. Number 5 on the 10 for 10. How many games straight has SU won against teams from New York State?
Ooh.
Bonus point if you can get the last one that they lost.
Was the last one Colgate? Well, what other teams would they have played in the?
Colgate is one. Does Columbia have a football team?
I don't think they
It's
would
an
have ever played.
FBS program. That's just to help you guys out a little bit.
FBS.
It's an FBS program. Okay.
Interesting. If anyone else knows, feel free to call in at 315-443-2011 to give us some help.
I believe there's only one other FBS program in the state of New York, so.
I'm racking my head. Maybe it's because the lights are bright in here, kind of like a Ricky
they
Collins
are,
moment.
They are pretty.
I'll give you a hint. You guys were kind of close with number 3 of having an idea.
Kind of close with number 3.
War.
Oh, there's a big war. I don't know.
All right, you guys aren't even close. It's Army.
Oh, Army.
That's
That's
the first hand up that's we should have gotten that.
14 straight games SU has won against a team from New York State. They lost to Army in 1986.
Do we know the score of that game?
No. All right.
Do we know how many balls were passed in that game?
Probably like 5.
Yeah.
So you guys aren't great with trivia. It's okay. But we have some more fun questions. Number 6 of the 10 for 10. If you could pick one former Syracuse football legend to join this team for the rest of the year, who would it be and why?
Is it crazy to say Kyle McCord? Like, I know that's like recency biased almost, but one of the best quarterbacks to do it at SU.
Second best, but yeah.
Right, but he's already done it under Fran Brown. He already
That is
knows,
true.
He already
He does
knows
have
the system. You
he
could
does have
insert
the,
Kyle McCord tomorrow, and this team would get exponentially better. Maybe go with like an Ernie Davis.
I was gonna say Ernie Davis.
Right.
I think that would be my pick. Give me some Give me some old school toughness on this squad as the workhorse. I would love to see Ernie Davis on the squad. So I'll go Ernie Davis. And the field is named after him. It's Ernie Davis Legends Field, so that'd be pretty cool.
All right. Don't hate those answers. Number 7, still staying away from trivia for a moment. Which Syracuse football player would make the best professor, and which class would they teach?
Oh, what a question. Man. Looking up and down, as far as players go, Luke Carney would be kind of fun. I think he's.
What would he teach, though?
He's a fun guy. He would teach some sort of, like, geology.
Okay.
He would, like, know a lot about one subject. I feel like he would know a lot about, like, the formation of rock structures, and that's, like, his bread and butter. His bread and butter today was 1 touchdown, by the way. How about that? Didn't throw a ball.
Yeah.
66-24 Syracuse win, and I'm going with Luke Carney. Teaches geology. He'd be fun, and he'd let me out of class a little bit early. So how about that?
I'm going to take Jack Stonehouse.
What a pick.
And I think he would be a great gym teacher.
Oh, that is such a cop-out.
Is that a cop-out?
Yes, that's a cop-out.
Gym in college.
Are you kidding me?
Okay.
Are you kidding
It's a college class?
You picked the football guy
professor,
to do PE teacher?
Okay. My other one was going to be he'd be some sort of, like, aerobics or, like, dance instructor because he can kick the ball really well, but
How about something mental, Rahil?
Okay.
What would he do? Jack Stonehouse, maybe he can talk about stones and the earth.
Maybe
Good
geology, but you already said geology.
Right. Architecture, stone
architecture.
House, but
I don't know. I could.
All right, there you go. Syracuse is a top-ranked architecture program. Let's do that. Architecture.
Okay.
All right.
5-year program.
Fine,
Back to some trivia here. Number 8, and I'm going to make this really easy on you guys. True or false? You got a 50% chance of getting this right. Since the separation of major college football programs into 2 divisions, Syracuse has never lost to an FCS opponent. True or false?
Never lost to an FCS opponent. And the split happened in the 80s?
In 1978.
78. Okay. Never lost.
I feel like this is.
I'm going to go with true.
Let's go true.
I'm going to go never lost.
Yes. Good job, guys. Woo!
Dang.
Woo! Got a trivia question right. Wonderful.
How about it?
All right, some more trivia. Number 9, just 2 to go in the 10 for 10. Of the remaining teams on SU's schedule, only one program has played Syracuse more than Colgate. Who is it?
Pitt.
Yeah, let's go with Pitt.
Man, you guys are on fire right now.
Yeah,
Bing,
good call,
bang,
Drew.
bong.
Good call, Drew. Good call.
Their 100th meeting was a couple years ago.
Yeah, Yankee Stadium. That was the one where Syracuse won without really having a quarterback. Dan Valori was the quarterback in that game.
Right. I'm interested. That's a big one, by the way. Looking down the line, that's one where if you got to get to 6 wins, Pitt's going to be a big one. Lots of history there.
All right, one more to go. Number 10 in the 10 for 10. Which opponent on Syracuse's schedule this season would be the biggest statement win? There's a lot of big games left on the road against Clemson, Notre Dame, Miami, home games against UNC and Duke. What are we going with? Which would be the biggest statement win?
For me, I feel like it would be Notre Dame. I feel like since Clemson lost to LSU, it's not as big because they're 12 instead of preseason where they were in the top 5. Notre Dame is still in the top 10, and you would think at that point they would have found their rhythm. And with the defending champion, with the runners-up, I'm going Notre Dame.
I'm going Clemson.
Okay.
Top 12 team right now, and it comes at a time where Syracuse could really use a big statement win after faltering against Tennessee, a close UConn win, and then Colgate today. If they beat Clemson next Saturday, holy smokes, how much does the narrative flip? With Clemson.
Oh, yeah.
All right, well, you heard the buzzer. We have run out of time on the 10 for 10.
Oh, no.
You guys picked it up towards the end. Not horrible with the trivia, but thank you all for playing along. And we'll be back in a moment on the double overtime. The reporter Alex Burstein joins in a moment.
There is a one-stop listen for everything Syracuse athletics.
Syracuse men's lacrosse had arguably maybe Gary Gates' best weekend ever as head coach.
The Ostrom Avenue podcast provides unique opinions plus exciting interviews from industry experts.
The voice of Syracuse men's lacrosse and Syracuse women's basketball as well. Tim Leonard, Javon Edmonds of Syracuse.com.
Check out weekly episodes and listen at WAER.org or wherever you get your podcasts.
Thanks for listening. We hope you're enjoying this WAER sports broadcast. Our sports staff goes where the teams go, home and away, and prepare for days before each game broadcast. Our talk show and podcast hosts analyze games, pore over stats, and keep up on sports trends. These and many behind-the-scenes opportunities are made possible by listener donations. So if you're a fan or an alum, donate to keep our sports legacy strong at WAER.org and click donate.
Steven Spielberg's career almost ended shortly after it began. His first big break, the filming of Jaws, was a disaster.
You know, I had serious PTSD for years.
Now, more than half a century later, he comes face to face with the same shark prop that almost sank him.
Thank you for a robust career.
Steven Spielberg reflects on Jaws on the next morning edition from NPR News.
Weekdays from 5 to 9 on 88.3 WAER.
The beauty of jazz is any time is a great time to experience new aspects of the musical genre and appreciate its rich history. WAER's HD2 channel is a dedicated source for jazz music 24 hours a day. Available to stream at WAER.org or on your HD radio. WAER, your local NPR station from Syracuse University.
Steven Spielberg's career almost ended shortly after it began. His first big break, the filming of Jaws, was a disaster.
You know, I had serious PTSD for years.
Now, more than half a century later, he comes face to face with the same shark prop that almost sank him.
Thank you for a robust career.
Steven Spielberg reflects on Jaws on the next morning edition from NPR News.
Weekdays from 5 to 9 on 88.3 WAER.
Jelly takes the shotgun snap, deep throw, down the left sideline. He's got Gill again. Touchdown, Syracuse.
Chugging along here on the double overtime, just like Syracuse's offense was up and down the field. Rahil Jaswal alongside Drew Albaugh, now joined by our reporter, Alex Burstein. Alex, thank you so much for coming in. How was the game?
Oh, it was great. I mean, especially at the start, this was a really impressive crowd for this game. The students showed out for the first half.
Nice.
You can't blame them when you're winning by 30 to go home after the first half, but the fans were out. It was loud, and it was just a really good atmosphere, and obviously Syracuse showed up for them.
How was the whiteout?
It was impressive. However, I will say something. The students,
they probably did
white.
It well, right?
It was a wall of white. Then as you got to like the home fans, it was sprinkle. And then when you got to like the nosebleeds and the Colgate well, I guess the Colgate fans wouldn't do it. But when you got to some of the further sections, there was no white. And I think this is because there was only like 2 or 3 days notice. And I love the idea of doing whiteouts. I love the idea of doing orange outs, blue outs. The fans like to do this stuff.
Sure.
But it doesn't work when it's only behind one end zone.
It was from Otto's Army.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
It wasn't like a Syracuse sponsored thing.
But that's the issue with the whiteouts.
Exactly.
Like it's only promoted to the students.
Mm-hmm.
Like the other fans don't know it's a whiteout.
And the students did it great. Like,
the students always do it great.
I mean, if you were throwing a touchdown that way and the team was wearing white uniforms, they would have blended in. Like it was really well executed, but only for about 25% of the stadium.
And only for 25% of the game.
Oh yeah,
of course.
Well, you can't blame them.
Right.
But speaking of throwing,
yes,
Steve Angeli, good amount of touchdown passes today. We were talking about him earlier. How would you rate his performance and what we've seen from him throughout these first 3 weeks?
Well, I think he's gotten better every single game, which is what you want to see out of a QB1. And I think for this game, if you want to give it a letter rating, I'd give it an A-. I mean, he threw for over 400 yards. He got into some really, really good company. He accounted for 6 touchdowns. How about you guys guess the other 2 Syracuse quarterbacks who have done that?
Oh, we just completely failed.
Not even quarterbacks, players.
Combined for 6 touchdowns?
Yeah, you want to know them?
Yeah, go ahead.
Eric Dungy and Jim Brown.
Jim Brown.
Anytime you're in the same company as Jim Brown,
and that's exactly what Fran Brown said in the press conference, because someone asked him this, and Fran Brown goes, well, anytime you mention someone else's name and Jim Brown in the same conversation, if you're that person, you go home, you sit on the couch, and you kind of bask in yourself, because Jim Brown made Syracuse football. The reason that this program was on the map was because of Jim Brown, and the fact that Steve Angeli did that today was crazy. The only reason it's an A- is because, yes, this was Colgate, and early on, I thought his passes were a little bit shaky, and he obviously had a lot of separation from his receivers. But if you go back to that first drive, his first throw was an overthrow, and then he had a couple near interceptions. But if you get to the end of the second quarter, Angeli was throwing darts, and it doesn't hurt that the wide receivers that I'm sure we'll talk about soon were perfect today. I mean, Daryl Gill, ridiculous performance, but
in just the first half, nonetheless.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
they had 12 guys catch passes today. You never hear that, and the first team was doing good. The second team was going well, and Angeli was kind of the glue that holds it all together. And I think Fran Brown is very happy with his decision of who started right now.
What did Fran Brown mention about Steve Angeli? And then the counter argument to that, a reason why a lot of the fans stayed in the Dome. Alex, I know you know what's coming, but Ricky Collins goes in shaky.
Yeah.
Best word to describe it. Goes
At
3
first,
for
yeah.
5
At
with
first, yeah.
1 interception and 1 touchdown, of course. What did Fran Brown say? I'm very interested to hear.
So the way that I think I've pieced it all together with Fran Brown is he doesn't think of this at all as a QB battle anymore. He thinks of Ricky Collins as the backup and Steve Angeli as the QB1.
I like that, though. I
mean,
like that.
If you hear him talk about Steve Angeli, it's like he's talking about his own son. I mean, every other sentence is either leader or proud because he's just amazed. It really, really reminds me of the second half of last year when Fran Brown would go out into the press conferences and just rave about Kyle McCord, and rightfully so. He was doing well week after week, but he's really formed that relationship, and I don't care what side of the spectrum you're on. You're pro Ricky Collins, you're pro Steve Angeli, you're pro Luke Carney. This is a really, really good coaching decision because the relationship between a quarterback and a head coach is one of the most holy in all of sports because those are your two leaders of the team, one on the field and one on the sideline. And the fact that Fran Brown has made up his mind and saying, we're sticking with Steve Angeli. There was one point in the press conference where he started to say, oh, if Steve, something goes wrong, and then he literally cut himself out.
Wow.
He said, actually, wait. And then he kind of revised his answer to say, we trust Ricky Collins if need be. But he stopped himself from saying if something bad happens to Steve Angeli because that's how much he trusts his quarterback.
Yeah, I think Fran Brown has played this really well because if he had gone away from Angeli in the third quarter when, in the UConn game, that would have completely fracked because you almost can't put Angeli back in.
Well, they did tonight.
But in a tough situation, though,
Speaking of the
losing in that UConn game, but yeah.
Speaking of the trust, there's so much trust between Steve Angeli and Fran Brown that 28 points against Colgate, a lead in the third quarter, and Fran Brown goes,
get back out there.
Ricky Collins, you're going to take a seat on that bench, and we're going to throw Steve Angeli back in the game. If that is not a red signal warning that Ricky Collins is not going to play barring an injury, I don't know what is.
Well, I was shocked. So I looked to the sideline and I see someone warming up, and it wasn't number 10.
It's Steve Angeli.
Steve Angeli, which was crazy. And Fran Brown talked about this. He basically said he felt that for Syracuse he loves the word culture. He loves the team culture. It's like this team's version of Ohana. It's the culture. It's the dart of this team. And he said, for Syracuse to keep moving on with their culture, to keep progressing as a team this season, they needed to get 7 points on the board this next drive, which happened, and they needed it to be with their leader, Steve Angeli. So he obviously loves all of his players. The way Fran Brown talks about his guys, he is like the leader of them all. He loves to talk about his guys. But Steve Angeli is number 1, and he wants anything that happens important to this team to run through their quarterback. He made that decision. Obviously, you can debate. Probably would have won. Probably would have still blown out Colgate had he not gone out of the game. But he wanted to show that this is the line we're drawing. We need our leader to be in there, and that's what happened.
Of the 3 quarterbacks we saw today, it reminds me, Steve Angeli is like, the star student or maybe the oldest of 3 child. You were talking about the son-father relationship between Fran Brown and Steve Angeli. Ricky Collins kind of strikes me as that middle child.
Oh, it's how he acts. No.
He is.
Okay,
no,
I'm the middle child of my family.
Okay,
he's seeking some attention. He throws the interception, and then maybe the baby of the group, Luke Carney, he comes in there. Happy-go-lucky, scores a touchdown. Everyone loves him.
I think one thing that was really awesome was when after Luke Carney scored, the first few players to mob him were Angeli and Ricky Collins.
Well, that was good to see.
That was great.
If you looked at Collins on the sideline today, I was not impressed. He was kind of off to the side. It reminded me of like Stephon Diggs after the AFC Championship game, kind of staring off into the distance at the Chiefs celebrating. I mean,
you got to feel for him a little bit. He transfers from LSU.
You do, but if you go down the sideline and you look at all the players, everyone's talking, everyone's together. Then you have on that side, you just have him standing by himself for part of the time. He was next to Fran Brown Jr. They might have been talking, but he was all by himself, and then he gets this opportunity, and then you have to feel bad for him. He's leading his team down the field, almost has a touchdown drive. He gets knocked out for one play because his helmet comes off, and what happens on that one play? Luke Carney scores a touchdown.
Yeah,
I mean, that is just bad luck.
It's tough. Rahil Jazzo alongside Drew Alba, joined by our reporter, Alex Burstein. If you guys want to call in and ask him a question, there's still time going up until midnight. You can call in at 315-443-2011. Alex, another thing that you were telling us when you were at the game that you instantly brought up was the offensive and defensive line.
Yes.
And you brought up how it wasn't bad per se, but it was more like, man, did you see any change really in the second half? Or
see, it's hard to say there was change from the first to the second half because the first half it was the first teamers, and obviously Syracuse had the skill advantage, but it was still the first team. When you got to the second half, Syracuse threw out their starters. Colgate actually went to their backup quarterback and started throwing their backups in. So there wasn't really that even number one versus number one in the second half. But in the first half, I think you did see them develop, and Colgate played this really, really well because if you look at their offense in the first 4 or 5 drives, there was a second, maybe 2 seconds between the time the ball was snapped and the time that the ball was either in a receiver or running back's hand because they knew Syracuse is a bigger team, Syracuse is a faster team, Syracuse is a stronger team. So what can't we do? Can't hold them off for a while. But if we get the ball out of the hands of the quarterback or whoever has the ball at the beginning of the play, then we can actually try to get something going, try to get it to our top receivers. And that worked early on. And I think Syracuse realized that. And the one play, all right, it's not one play, but the one thing that really did work, Syracuse blitzing was ridiculous tonight because they, as we mentioned, I mean, it looked like they were 2 times the size of Colgate. So if they
2 sacks, Alex.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's what I'm saying. They were just getting the ball out of the hands so fast. The quarterback barely had the ball in his hands today.
I understand. I like the philosophy, but
it's smart.
Can you commend it? Scoring 3 points in the first half.
I mean, Zach Osborne, the starter today, he was really good.
Right.
Like, if you look at Osborne and a couple of the top receivers for this team, we were talking in the press box, these guys look like they could easily be playing FBS football, and I think a lot of that goes to the coaching staff of Colgate. You know what's happening when you come play Syracuse. Think of this from an FCS perspective. You're going from playing teams that maybe have 1 camera, 2 camera setups on their broadcast. Your film is blurry, is shaky. You don't have as good of prep on these teams. Then you come play Syracuse, played Tennessee on national television, had a home game the next week at the JMA Wireless Dome. They had a lot of film on this team. They had already played both a good game against UConn and a loss against Tennessee. But Colgate knew what they were expecting.
3 points. I don't know. I mean, how much can you take from a Colgate squad that puts up 3 points in the first half, other than Syracuse dominating defensively in that first half?
Well, I think what Fran Brown was saying is that this game was not about wins and losses.
Sure.
You knew you were going to win this game.
I
mean, everyone knew they were going to win this game.
Right.
This game was about getting new guys on the field. Mm-hmm. How about Demetrius Samuels? I mean, he had an interception, a pass catch, and a punt return.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm out of breath just thinking about that.
Did Fran say anything about him in the press conference?
I mean, he just said he's seen him grow so much.
Okay.
And obviously he said he's 17 years old. He should be playing
He
in
might
Florida.
still be growing physically, too.
I thought the funniest thing was Samuels came out after for the press conference, and he was talking, and someone asked him, you know, what's it like playing in front of 30,000, 40,000, 50,000 fans? And he said, well, it's obviously a great feeling, but I'm from Florida, and high school football is crazy there, so it doesn't even feel that different. He felt like the Dome was just like another game for him, which I think is really impressive. And to show that type of maturity and that type of playmaking skills as a 17-year-old, that's ridiculous.
Keeping on the pass catchers, Amari Hatcher didn't play today. What's the situation with him?
Yeah, I mean, they didn't talk about him in the press conference. It just seems like he's kind of been passed up right now, and obviously we don't have the details if he's battling something or whatever. But
you got to think that not playing against Colgate, something's physically happening.
We're never gonna. But I mean, it could just be he's maybe lost in the show. They got a lot of guys. They were trying to. I mean, Syracuse
13 or 12.
Right, but as
but look at how those guys are broken up. The first half was the stars for this team. Hatcher doesn't really fit into that. The second half was the freshmen of these team. Hatcher also doesn't fit into that.
But at some point, you got to throw him in somewhere.
And I'm not disagreeing with you,
right.
But I mean, Fran Brown runs a very diverse offense. He's trying to get as many guys catches as possible, but he's also trying out new things. I mean, you look at Jamie Tremble, came into the season probably third on the tight end depth chart. What did he do tonight? He had a sack. Yeah. So Fran Brown's all about changing guys up, changing up their roles. Hatcher just wasn't there tonight. But who has Hatcher played well against? He's played well in ACC games for a couple of years now. Now ACC plays start. So this was just, it's not a throwaway week, but this was a learn yourself week.
A momentum building week.
Exactly. If Syracuse goes out and wins this game by 5 points, this is a completely different conversation. Instead, they win by 42 points. They're playing a Clemson team that battled hard against Troy and really did not look that good in that one. And now Syracuse has all the momentum heading into Death Valley next week. Are they the favorites? No. Are they anywhere close to being even considered a possibility of winning?
Yes.
Really?
I think
I don't
so.
think so. I mean, if
a possibility?
I mean,
I guess like possibility, like if you technically, I mean, if you technically say like, yeah, well, any team that plays as a possibility, like, yeah, no, yeah, technically have it, but obviously, I mean, the odds are not in Syracuse's favor.
All I'm saying is that the needle didn't move for Syracuse tonight against Clemson,
yes.
But if this had been a worse result, the needle would have moved back.
It could have been a lot worse. It could have been a lot worse.
You kind of just
only negatives could have come from this game.
Exactly.
For Syracuse.
I mean,
you're gonna nitpick.
It's a trap game.
You don't get credit for winning trap games, let alone when it's against
a mouse trap game.
Yeah,
This is not a bear trap.
I don't even know if it was a mouse trap game.
What was it?
Is there something smaller?
A fly swatter?
Sure, there you go. It's a fly swatter game.
All right.
Okay.
There we go.
Another interesting element to this game was Will Nixon, right?
Yes.
Because Yassine Willis was out. You would think that Will Nixon would be the guy going for it. Got 12 carries, had over 60 yards, but as we touched on, it was really on one carry, a 40-plus yarder. What did you see out of Will Nixon this evening?
I thought in the first half he was trying to be someone he wasn't. He was trying to be Austin Willis, who was out with injury today, and he was trying to fill that power back role. If you look at Will Nixon and what he's done both last year before injury, what he's done at past years with Nebraska and Washington, he's not a power back. He's a player like LaQuint Allen who can do a little bit of everything. I'm not saying he's LaQuint Allen because Allen was great at everything, but Allen was a pass catcher. He also could do sometimes those shorter runs, but just the first half, Nixon was trying to be someone he wasn't. You go to kind of the end of the second quarter and the very few carries I had to start off the third quarter, he looked more comfortable because he was getting the passes, he was getting the flea flickers, just stuff he was more used to. So I think Syracuse kind of found their balance. And I mean, it's crazy saying that because they outscored Colgate 24-0 in the second quarter. So obviously things were working pretty well, but all the players found themselves in those second and third quarters. And that's huge for this team because, as you said, this is a momentum game. This is a pick-me-up game after last week against UConn, and finally things were working this week.
Unsettled is the right word, I would say, for Nixon. He comes out early on.
The fumble didn't help.
With 8 minutes left in the first quarter, right. You give the fumble up, and then, of course, Colgate scores their only
and Fran
points.
Brown said, that's football. 8 out of 9 times you're going to have that carry, and you're not going to drop it, but he just dropped the ball. It was as simple as that. It wasn't punched up, out. He just dropped the football. But
unsettled would be the word for that.
Yeah, and you think of Will Nixon in his career. He's playing at Syracuse, and he seems happy here. But he's playing under his dad. He's already transferred schools 2 times. He came to Syracuse looking to be competing for that backup spot to LaQuint Allen. He gets injured, and then he comes into his senior year, and Syracuse has this really weird running back room because you have some really speedy freshmen. You have Willis, who's this big guy, doesn't have a ton of speed but has this power, and then you have Nixon that's somewhere in between. You want to use that middle child example again?
Yeah,
right. That's Will Nixon right now.
So assuming Yasin Williams comes back healthy, where would you see Will Nixon kind of? Would he be more of like a third down kind of pass catcher per se?
I could see that. I think even in the past weeks, Willis hasn't gotten as many carries that I expected him to.
Especially in the UConn game.
And the thing we don't know is what Willis's injury is, and we're not going to speculate, but that makes a huge difference. If he comes back looking slower, looking less strong, that's going to change the complete archetype of this team. But should everyone come back healthy, and it's really Nixon and Willis lean this running back room, I think they're almost splitting them, because third down, sometimes you want the pass catcher. Sometimes it's 3rd and 1, and you're not throwing a pass to your running back. You're running it up the middle.
Yeah.
So Fran Brown, and he talked about this after the game, really was happy tonight with the balance between the rush offense and the pass offense, which if you go back the first 10, 15 games of Fran Brown's career as the head coach at Syracuse, not the case at all. Even when you had LaQuint Allen last year, it was the passing show. It was the Kyle McCord show. Against Tennessee, it was once again Angeli trying to force passes.
And UConn.
Even in UConn, exactly. They came back in that game. They had 44 rushing yards.
Right.
Tonight, they finally saw some balance. They finally saw stuff come together. And he said it's going to depend on what the defense gives them. If Clemson is clouding it up the middle and you're not able to run anything, it's not going to be a balanced game. But he loved how his team looked tonight when you were actually able to throw the ball and run the ball like a football team's supposed to do.
Switching things up a little bit, what did you see and what did Fran Brown say post-game about the freshmen that got an opportunity? Jalen Hornsby.
They were great tonight.
They were great.
Darian Williams, Byron Washington, Demetrius Samuel, we've already mentioned a couple times, just 17-year-old. That is ridiculous. What did he say about that? But first off, what was your opinions?
I thought they kind of all impressed me. There was moments, Demetrius Samuel's early on, he got burned a couple of times, and we've seen that in the first couple of games, especially when you're on offense and punt returns as well. But he came into his own. Talk about Washington, just sheerly the size of him on the offensive line. It's ridiculous. He's listed on the Syracuse website as 400 pounds. You can't teach size, kids. He has a ton of it, and he has just been chugging along on the line. Fran Brown after the game said Washington was good. He wasn't really able to give a clear critique. He said he's going to have to look at the film, but the example he used is that in his headset, he never heard Washington being yelled at him. So that's a good sign because he never was completely out of position as a freshman.
No news is sometimes good news.
Exactly.
Right?
And then you look at and then you look at Hornsby, who had a pair of touchdowns tonight receiving, or second one got wiped off, but a pair of almost scoring catches, had some big plays down the stretch. He looked amazing tonight. So I think this is big for Fran Brown because, once again, if you look at how this team is broken up, these juniors and seniors, a lot of them are still the product of Dino Babers because Fran Brown's only in his second season, and he's brought in his transfers, he's brought in some new guys, but you still have these freshmen and sophomores who are truly the work of Fran Brown, and now he's really getting to work with them.
Really quick, Alex.
Yes.
Moving over to Clemson,
Yes.
what do you expect?
I think Syracuse is going to put up a fight more than they did against Tennessee early on, but you're playing in Death Valley. You're playing against a team currently ranked number 12 in the country. Yeah, you can surmise what might happen.
Okay.
Well, it certainly will be interesting, that game at noon next week. You can catch the coverage starting at 11:30 here on our airwaves. Alex, thank you so much for joining us. We still have a little bit of time left, so when we come back, Drew and I will give our final words and also break down a little bit of this remaining ACC schedule.
News hour from the BBC.
Understand what's happening.
With news.
What's going on?
Heat waves, cyclones, storms, floods.
Increasingly unpredictable weather events.
Interviews.
2024 is the hottest year on record.
This is an uncharted situation.
And analysis of the day's global events.
In the Middle East, it's very difficult to be shocked nowadays.
That's News hour from the BBC.
Weekdays after morning edition at 9 on WAER, your local NPR station.
Charlie Kirk's killing adds to a long list of recent political violence in America. A Minnesota state legislator murdered in her home. The Pennsylvania governor's house set on fire. An assassination attempt on then-candidate Trump. In the next installment of our weekly series, If You Can Keep It, the growing threat and what it means for our democracy. That's next time on 1A.
Weekdays from 10 to noon on 88.3 WAER.
Hi, I'm Kathy, and I listen to Bullseye because I really like the way that Jesse does his interviews, not just throwing softballs at people.
I'm Jesse Thorne. This week, Bob Odenkirk, the star of Breaking Bad, Mr. Show, Better Call Saul, and the Nobody movies, plus Jason Segel, co-creator and star of Shrinking. That's on Bullseye from MaximumFun.org and NPR.
Sunday morning at 11 on WAER.
And you spend your life putting money in his wallet.
The Queen of Bluegrass, Rhonda Vincent, joins us on Mountain Stage this week, along with Neil Francis, Otis Gibbs, Don Landis, and the trio of Kathy Fink, Marcy Markser, and Chow Tien from China to Appalachia.
Hi, this is Rhonda Vincent. Join us this week in live performance on Mountain Stage.
Sunday from noon to 2 on 88.3 FM WAER.
Jelly claps, takes the snap. Throw down the right sideline, intended for Hornsby. He catches it, pulls over a defender. He's into the end zone. Touchdown, Orange. First touchdown of the season for Jalen Hornsby.
Welcome back into the double overtime draw ball alongside Rahil Jaswell after Syracuse topples Colgate 66-24 on a Friday night in the Dome. We are live for just 7 more minutes until midnight, but if you want to get your word in, then feel free to call us at 315-443-2011. Let's get right into our final words, Rahil. This is a game that you can take a lot away from, but you also can look at it and say it was against Colgate. So you got anything that you can really piece apart going into this Clemson game?
Yeah, so I know we've kind of been back and forth. We've talked a lot of positives, we talked a lot of negatives, but my final word is going to be, for Syracuse fans, enjoy the win. I know it's against Colgate. I know it doesn't mean that much in the grand scheme of things, given that you've got a loaded ACC schedule coming up, but enjoy the win. You know, there's a great life saying, and that's, you never fully appreciate something until you don't have it anymore. A couple weeks down the line, we could see Syracuse in a 3 or 4 game losing streak, and a lot of fans are going to think, man, maybe I should have appreciated the fact that we saw a win against Colgate. We saw back-to-back wins against UConn and against Colgate. And given this schedule, Drew, I mean, it's brutal. I mean, you've got Death Valley and Clemson coming up. You got Belichick coming to the Dome later this season. You've got other tough games like SMU. So, Syracuse fans, I understand it's tough, right? Because it's Colgate, and you always beat Colgate. And the students were gone by halftime, which is to be expected because the game was a blowout. But enjoy it. Enjoy the win, because it always feels good to win.
And how many wins are left for Syracuse?
That's a good point
really
as well.
We
don't know.
6 is the number to get that bowl game. Syracuse now 2-1 after taking down Colgate 66-24. Really quickly before I get into my final word, over on the YouTube side of things at WAER Sports Talk, Jamie Gervais says, it looks like Syracuse will score points against everybody this year, like they did last year. If we could get our defense to step up, we could have a fighting chance. Jamie, I'm right there with you, but I'm going to focus on that first part of your comment for my final word. You're talking about how the offense can put up points against everybody. Well, I think it's only if Steve Angeli is the guy, and the conversation is dead in my mind between Ricky Collins and Steve Angeli. Ricky Collins, more like Ricky who? Because he is the backup quarterback for the Syracuse football team. I get it. He was listed as the starter back in the springtime. He transferred from a big-time program like an LSU. He gives you things that maybe Angeli can't with his legs, with his arm strength. Angeli's there as well with him. But this is not a quarterback competition anymore. I don't want to hear anyone screaming, we want Collins or put Collins in if something goes awry, because things will go awry the rest of the way for Syracuse. This is a Syracuse schedule that is absolutely brutal, and things are going to happen, but Angeli is the guy. And today made me think that more than ever, and I know it was against Colgate. But if anything, Ricky Collins comes in, and I get it. It's his first live-action minutes of the season, but he goes down, he looks uncomfortable, he misses a ball down the far sideline, and a couple plays later, he throws an interception that wasn't particularly close.
It was poor.
And that really encapsulates what Ricky Collins is as a player and why Fran Brown listed Steve Angeli as the starter. Ricky Collins does not give you a better chance to win than Steve Angeli. And barring an injury, this is the last time we are going to see Ricky Collins in a Syracuse jersey this season out on the field, barring an injury or barring a blowout or whatever you want to call it. Angeli's the guy. Collins is the backup. Spick and span, done. Conversation over. That's my final word. And Syracuse wins 66-24 over Colgate. Last chance. Call in at 315-443-2011 for just 3 more minutes. We are live. First, really quickly, Rahil, Clemson, next week. What do you got? Do you think Syracuse has a chance?
Does Syracuse have a chance? Yes, because they're playing the game. Am I going to pick Syracuse? No. I think maybe we see a tight first half, but I think Clemson pulls away and in the end, out physical Syracuse and gets the job done. But I don't think it'll be a complete embarrassment for the Orange.
And this is a Clemson team that hasn't looked great. Came in as a top 10 team in the country. It's struggled a little bit. Beat Troy 27-16.
They struggled, though. They struggled.
A big game tomorrow against Georgia Tech. We'll have to see what happens there in an ACC clash. Syracuse a chance to make a big statement win. I went on record saying that this is the chance for SU
make their
to
biggest
make their biggest statement
Yep.
win of the season and kind of bounce back after a tough start. You lose against Tennessee. UConn, you probably should have lost before a heroic last 6 minutes of the game. And then today, a big win over Colgate. But next week, on Saturday, is a huge one for Fran Brown and company to make a statement win and really get the momentum back and everyone believing in this team again. Maybe not just a six-win team, maybe not hoping for a bowl game, but maybe something in the future. Who knows? It's a big one. Clemson on Saturday at 12 p.m. The double overtime goes until 5 right here on WAER. Rahil, you got anything else for us before we head out of here?
Nope, we covered it all.
We covered it all. It's been really fun hanging out with you. Thanks so much, Rahil. Also, a lot of thank yous to hand out. Our producer, Adam Gotkin, he was also on the mic for our 10 for 10. Thanks so much. Sam Reese on the board. Our reporter, Alex Burstein, who steps in. It was a little cold in here. Big Bird was in the building. And, of course, on desk, Jack DiNapoli, Corey Miller, and Ryan Croak writing up a lot of those 10 for 10s and making everything work behind the scenes. For one final time, it's Drew Alba and Rahil Jaswell on the double overtime. Syracuse beats Colgate 66-24. Good night.